While the world debates the economy, elections, and political scandals, something much bigger is stirring in silence, and few are paying attention. Germany has just stated that Donald Trump's Gaza plan could become reality as early as next week. Does it seem like just another international headline? Well, it's precisely this kind of distraction that hides the real game. Because when powers start talking prematurely, it's a sign that the scenes are already ablaze. Some see this announcement as an attempt at peace. Others see it as the beginning of a new Cold War, not with weapons, but with influence, energy, and territorial control. Trump, whom many underestimated, seems to once again use chaos as a platform. And the curious thing is that, while European leaders mince their words, Germany speaks with unusual conviction. What it knows, and what the rest of the world has yet to understand, is that this plan could irreversibly change global geopolitics. The truth is that no decision at this level is isolated. What's being discussed in Gaza isn't just about territory, it's about power. And when power starts changing hands, the world enters a reconfiguration mode. So, before you think this is just another Middle East news story, stop and take a look. The board is moving, and if Germany is right, the game that begins next week won't just be about Gaza. It will be about the future of the world order. The global board moves again. The world, more than ever, seems like a chessboard where the pieces move calculatedly, but almost no one understands the real game. Every speech, every announcement, and every diplomatic coincidence conceals strategies that don't make the headlines. When Germany decides to speak out about Trump's Gaza plan, it's not just an opinion, it's a signal, a sign that political, economic, and military forces are realigning behind the scenes, and that something big is about to happen. It's curious to observe how these global movements follow an almost invisible logic. While the public focuses on emotional narratives, on conflicts, images, and promises, leaders negotiate influence, power, and control. What's unfolding in the Middle East is, in fact, a reflection of a global shift. Each time a power speaks out, a new axis is formed, and the balance that sustained the peace of recent years begins to shake. Those who pay close attention notice the signs before most. Germany doesn't speak casually, and Trump never acts without a strategy. This combination, Europe on alert and the United States on the move, indicates that the geopolitical game is entering a new phase. We may not see tanks in the streets immediately, but the decisions being made today will define the coming years of world politics. And at the heart of it all, a plan called Gaza seems to be just the first piece of a much larger game. What is Trump's Gaza plan? The so-called Gaza plan didn't come out of nowhere. It's part of a much larger strategy Trump has been crafting since his first term, an attempt to reconfigure the map of the Middle East under the banner of peace, but with strong economic and strategic interests. The central idea is simple in theory: rebuild Gaza under international management, attract private investment, and limit the power of extremist groups. But in practice, this means repositioning allies, controlling resources, and dictating new rules in the region. Behind the reconstruction rhetoric lies a cold calculation: geopolitical influence. Trump sees the Middle East not only as a humanitarian wound, but as an opportunity for power. He understands that whoever controls reconstruction also controls the future of alliances, especially energy and military ones. Therefore, the Gaza plan is not just a gesture of aid, but a move toward global repositioning, with the U.S. attempting to regain the prominence it lost during years of diplomatic hesitation. Many experts believe that the success of this plan will depend not on intentions, but on acceptance. Are the Arab powers, Israel, and European countries willing to cede influence to Trump again? Germany seems to believe so, or at least that the groundwork is being prepared. And if this prediction is confirmed next week, perhaps the world will discover that the Gaza plan is just the tip of a much more ambitious project, one that redefines visible and invisible boundaries of power. Why is Germany involved in this? Germany is not just a neutral voice observing the Middle East from afar. It is a pillar of European politics, and a vital link in the chain of energy, security, and global influence. When Berlin speaks, the world listens, because it knows its words reflect not just opinion, but strategic calculation. By positioning itself on Trump's Gaza plan, Germany sends a silent message to Washington. We are paying attention, and we want to be at the table where real decisions are made. This is not altruism. It is geopolitical survival in times of global reconfiguration. Historically, Germany has always sought a balance between economic pragmatism and moral responsibility. But after the energy crisis and tensions with Russia, Berlin realized that neutrality comes at a high price. The country depends heavily on stability in the Middle East, whether through energy flows or migration impacts. If Gaza becomes a new hub for reconstruction and investment, it's natural that the Germans would want to secure their share. Engineering, technology, and infrastructure companies are already preparing for potential multi-million-dollar contracts. Peace, when well managed, is often a great business. But there's something deeper behind this move. Germany knows that the Gaza plan is also a test of global leadership. By supporting, albeit cautiously, a U.S. initiative, Berlin is trying to reposition Europe as a strategic partner of the U.S. without losing its political autonomy. It's a delicate dance, getting close enough to influence, but not close enough to be submissive. And it's precisely in this tension between power and prudence that Germany shows its strength, acting with the precision of someone who has learned, throughout history, that diplomacy is the art of moving unnoticed. The impact of this on U.S.-Europe relations. Relations between the United States and Europe have always been a marriage of convenience, sustained by interests, not love. For decades, Washington has set the pace, and the old continent has followed, sometimes out of conviction, sometimes out of dependence. But with the advancement of the Gaza plan and Trump's assertive stance, this balance is beginning to shift. Germany, by stepping forward and admitting that the plan could come to fruition, signals its desire to once again be a partner, not just a spectator. The gesture is political but also symbolic. It shows that Europe is willing to talk, even when it disagrees. Trump, for his part, has never hidden his distrust of the European Union. For him, Europe is an economic giant with feet of clay, rich but insecure. The Gaza plan becomes, in this context, a bargaining tool. If Europeans want to participate in the reconstruction, they will need to accept American leadership. And that's where the game gets interesting. Because Germany, with its political and economic clout, could be the bridge between a hesitant Europe and a Trump determined to rebuild his image as a world leader. What's at stake, ultimately, is who dictates the rules of the new Western order. This pragmatic rapprochement brings benefits, but also risks. Europe may gain access to contracts, resources, and influence, but it risks becoming hostage to American decisions on a board it no longer controls. Trump knows how to negotiate with what the world fears most: instability. And Germany, realizing this, would rather be in the negotiations than out. It's the old dilemma of international politics. You're either at the table, or you're the dish served. And apparently Berlin has decided to sit back at the table, even though it knows the menu is still being written. The possible consequences for the Middle East. The Middle East is a place where every political decision stokes old flames that never quite die out. The Gaza plan, if it actually comes to fruition, promises to bring reconstruction, stability, and opportunity. But the road to that goal is paved with decades of mistrust. Trump talks of peace, but the region's history teaches that every promise of peace comes with power struggles. No country wants to lose influence, and no group wants to give up territory, faith, or pride. And that's precisely where tensions grow, between the ideal of reconstruction and the reality of conflict. If the plan moves forward, Gaza could become a geopolitical laboratory, an internationally controlled zone where private companies, security forces, and multilateral organizations would share the same space. This would bring jobs and infrastructure, but also a new form of dependence. Whoever controls the investment controls the future. Imagine a territory where every road, every hospital, Every school is financed by a foreign power. This peace could actually be the beginning of a new form of control, more subtle, more economical, but equally powerful. And the impact isn't limited to Gaza. The mere possibility of this plan is already influencing neighboring countries like Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon, which are watching cautiously. Israel, on the other hand, sees an opportunity to secure its borders, while Iran and Turkey see a threat to their regional influence. In short, the Gaza plan is a stone thrown into a political pond full of cracks. The waves may seem gentle at first, but they have the power to reshape the entire landscape. And at the center of these turbulent waters, Trump seems to be navigating with a map only he understands. Trump's inside game in the race, Donald Trump has always understood a rule that many politicians forget. In times of crisis, perception matters more than reality. By resurrecting the Gaza plan, he's not just playing the international chess game, he's also playing the domestic one. He knows that, for American voters, a strong leader is one who appears to resolve global conflicts, command respect, and rebuild the image of the United States. Every statement about the Middle East is also a message home. With me, the world will listen to me again. And politically, this is one of the most powerful narratives he masters. Trump's strategic genius lies in transforming foreign policy into electoral fuel. He creates tension and then proposes solutions. This is what he did with North Korea, with China, and now tries to repeat with Gaza. The method is simple but effective. He dramatizes the situation, generates fear, and then presents himself as the only one capable of bringing order to the chaos. This activates a psychological instinct in voters, the desire for security amid uncertainty. It doesn't matter whether the plan actually comes to fruition. What matters is the appearance of control. And in politics, perception is power. At the same time, this move repositions Trump as the protagonist of global geopolitics, diverting the spotlight from domestic crises and lawsuits that threaten his image. It's as if he's saying to the world, "While you talk about courts, I'll talk about treaties." The rhetoric is calculated and effective. And if the Gaza plan actually comes to fruition next week, it won't just be a diplomatic victory. It will be a masterful campaign stunt. Because for Trump, foreign policy has never been just about countries. It's always been about stage, narrative, and legacy. The silence of the other big players. Silence, in the geopolitical chess game, is often more eloquent than any speech. While Germany and the United States speak, other powers observe, and observe closely. China, Russia, Iran, and Turkey don't issue inflammatory statements, but their discrete actions reveal unease. Each has something to lose, and much to gain, depending on how the Gaza plan unfolds. This silence is strategic. It's the sound of analysis, waiting, and preparation. In international politics, those who talk too much reveal the game. Those who remain silent study it. China, for example, positions itself as a peaceful mediator, but its interests go beyond diplomacy. It sees the Middle East as vital territory for its new Silk Road, a logistical and energy corridor connecting Beijing to Europe. A successful American plan in Gaza would mean greater U.S. influence in the region and less room for Chinese expansion. Therefore, Beijing's silence is calculated. It prefers to wait, evaluate, and act in any gaps that arise. The same goes for Russia, which, amid the war in Ukraine, doesn't want to divide the spotlight. But neither will it allow Washington to monopolize the global narrative. Iran and Turkey, on the other hand, play a different game, that of regional influence. Both are vying not only for power, but also for legitimacy in the Muslim world. For them, seeing Trump reshaping Gaza with Western support is a symbolic affront, an attempt to westernize a historic wound in the Middle East. And while the silence may seem like acceptance, it's the opposite. It's the sound of those who observe, gather information, and wait for the right moment to react. Because in the East, patience is synonymous with power. And while the West moves hastily, the major Eastern players plan their counterattack with the coolness of those who have already understood that, in wars of influence, the first to move is rarely the winner. The world on the verge of a new geopolitical configuration. The world is changing before our eyes, but most people haven't noticed yet. Every crisis, every agreement, and every political silence is part of a reconfiguration process that has already begun. The Gaza plan may seem like a regional issue, but it is, in fact, a symbolic piece on a new global chessboard. How this initiative materializes, or fails, will define the power blocks of the coming decades. And when Germany claims this could become a reality next week, it is, in fact, pointing to a turning point in modern history. We live in an era of transition. Economic, military, and cultural power is being redistributed. The axis that once revolved around the United States and Europe is beginning to fragment in the face of the rise of new powers and alternative alliances. What's at stake is not just territory or influence, but narrative. Whoever controls the narrative controls the future, and that's what all leaders strive for, explicitly or silently. In this scenario, Trump attempts to reassume his role as architect of the Western world, while countries like China and Russia build parallel systems of power. The planet is moving toward a new order, less predictable and much more multifaceted. Hybrid wars, digital conflicts, information manipulation, and energy disputes are becoming the new weapons in a confrontation rarely fought with tanks. The Gaza plan is just a rehearsal, a mirror of what's to come. Reconstructions that hide disputes, alliances that mask interests, and agreements that will shape generations. And whoever understands this now will have an advantage, because the future will not be won by force, but by the ability to see before others what has already begun to change. What we're witnessing isn't just diplomacy, it's history unfolding before our eyes. Every statement, every silence, and every move by the major powers reveals that we're entering a new geopolitical era. Germany signals, Trump acts, and the Middle East is once again the epicenter of the world. The question is, do we truly understand what's happening behind the scenes, or are we still just reacting to what the headlines want us to see? Perhaps this is the time to look deeper, to connect the dots, read between the lines, and see the world as a strategist, not a spectator. Because whoever understands the context understands the future. And the future, right now, is being reshaped. Think, how many decisions are being made right now behind closed doors that will define the world we wake up to tomorrow? If this kind of analysis helps you see what's really behind appearances, don't stop here. Get the ebook, 10 Signs That a War is About to Start. A revealing guide that teaches you how to recognize the first signs of a global conflict before it happens. Knowledge is your best weapon. So, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and continue learning to read the world. Before the world reads you. Before the world reads you.